What's up, everybody? It's another episode of Tiny Housinʼ, volume, I think, 22. And, man, just got home from a long, hard day. Another one. It really starts to hit when, so place got a little cleaner between yesterday and today, and it's nice and ice cold in here. I'm gonna grab me an ice cold bottle of water out of my new tiny fridge, but not so good ice cold bottle of water out of the tiny fridge, and I'm just gonna take a minute, chill, and then I'll do a little bit of a video for y'all. What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Adam. It is Tiny Housinʼ, volume 22. And oh my god, I might just drop the phone and fall asleep while oh my god. This isn't something I can continue to do for a long, I don't know. This is the physical exhaustion that this is bringing to my life right now it's actually going to hurt my chances of rebuilding my life. And I mean, everything's temporary. A week from now, I could be in a whole different place. So it's not, I'm playing the long game. I'm biding my time. I'm trying to take my socks off here while I talk to y'all. But, oh my god. This freaking day. What really hurts the most is doing this too many days in a row. I'm done. Friday, 20 miles, 8 hours at the bakery, 21 miles-ish. It's pretty much 21 miles. 21 miles to the bakery, 21 miles home, 8 hours of hard labor, 21 miles home. Friday, once again, get up at 5 in the morning, scramble to get ready, got to be out the door at 6:30. 21 miles in, 8 hours at the bakery, 21 miles home. And I'm taking the same route every time. I've made a couple of little variations here and adjustments to the route that I take. I found a couple of cut-throughs through the woodlands that are a little bit lighter on traffic and a little less hilly. I mean, there's no hills. This is flat country, but there's undulations in the road. There are little tiny rollers, I call them. It's not perfectly flat like a board, you kind of are going up and down here and there. And I did find a couple of cut-throughs to get through the woodlands on a little bit more tranquil roads than couple of the roads I was taking. And I don't think it really makes a difference on time or distance, but it's a little bit more peaceful and laid back through one of the stretches. But there really aren't too many. That's one thing maybe in the city of Houston it's different, but out here in this ridiculous, retarded ass suburbs, the roads are the most retarded at, whoever designed the roads around here should be run over. Because whoever did that, you're a fucking moron. It's bad. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, honestly, is one of the most confusing places that you can ever find yourself in to drive. But the problem with Pittsburgh is you got three big ass rivers, you've got creeks and streams and major, really big hills everywhere you go. The terrain is the most crazy ass terrain you'll ever see in a city. Like, it's weird. It's like very, very hilly, very challenging to. So the streets and the roads are built like basically wherever they can be, and it takes a little bit of time to get used to figuring out how to drive around there. Houston is perfectly flat. There's nothing here in terms of terrain that would be challenging to build roads on. And yet it's by far the most retarded place I've ever seen in terms of navigating and driving around. At least this area. And I've looked at, like, I've watched YouTube videos on this subject where people really break it down, because I'm like, am I the only one who feels this way? And no, it's basically Houston has absolutely no plan. It's like people just build roads wherever the fuck, and they do, roads that don't connect to anything or take you anywhere, and then there's one road that takes you from one town to one place to another with no alternative and no other possible way to go, and it's the most idiotic shit I've ever seen. I'm still like kind of, I'm not going to pass judgment on Houston until I've been here a while and I've actually got to experience what it's like to live here for a period. Because when I first moved to Pittsburgh when I was a kid, I was in college. I went to art school. I hated Pittsburgh for a while. For over a year. I really didn't start to like being in Pittsburgh until I was about almost done with art school after two and a half years. And then I moved away. And I moved back to where I grew up. I lived with my parents for about a year because I was going through a little bit of a stress ball period of life where I just had a daughter, and I got a really good job offer right out of art school in Rochester, New York. So I moved up there with my parents. I started working at this job, and I was trying to like figure out how to get my shit together so I could move back to Pittsburgh. But it wasn't until I moved back to Rochester, which we like to call it Rottenchester, New York. Totally dead city. I mean, that is like one of the most dead, do nothing. Like, all of Western New York just sucks. It sucks. And it wasn't until I went back to my roots that I realized Pittsburgh's a pretty cool place. And so when I went back to Pittsburgh, I never really I've always liked it ever since. I still, Pittsburgh feels like home to me to this day. I'll probably go back there someday. I don't know. The weather, who knows what's going to happen. Anything can happen, but I don't think I would like anywhere I'm living right now because of my situation in life, not because of where I live. I don't think there's any place in America where I could live right now and be happy about it, because I'm still going to be struggling to survive and going through all the bullshit that I'm going through dealing with our wonderful government. And so I'm just going to, that's I did have a little bit of a difficult ride home, a lot of assholes, a lot of horn honking, a lot of just entitled suburban douchebags. Not fond of the Woodlands and the people that live there. I think they're a bunch of fucking dirtbags. I would never... to have the money that it takes to live in that fucking place and actually make the choice to live there, you have to be a complete piece of shit to want to do that. Because these people are just scum. They're the most entitled, snobby douchebags you're ever going to fucking meet. Like, these McMansion communities are just full of assholes. Like, the ultimate homeowners association pricks that you could possibly imagine all feel like they're entitled It's like they think that we're in the medieval days and they're riding by on horseback and I'm supposed to get off of the road and bow down on my knee and bow my head to the lords and nobles as they're riding by on their fancy horses. It's like, fuck you. Get over yourself, you entitled suburban piece of shit, and go back to your fucking homeowners association and go get into a fight with Karen because you planted the wrong color flowers in your front yard, you dumb fucking prick. I'm sick of you fucking people. I had it out with a bunch of them on the way home today. It was like, there must be a full moon. I don't know what brings it out of these stupid Texas hillbilly assholes, but I fucking hate sharing the road with them. Hate it. Hate oh my God, and I'm far, like, I keep looking into this. I'm like, am I the only one who feels this way about Houston? No, I'm not. I'm not. It is very much a consensus that Houston is one of the worst places to not only ride a bicycle, but drive. It's one of the most hostile, douchebag-filled, congested roads, just full of assholes. And I've been all over America. I've seen it all. But this takes the cake. Houston, by far, like, oh my God, this place is fucking terrible. In terms of, my best friend was telling me, he's like, you'll meet the nicest people you've ever met in your walking, as you get to know Houston and start to meet people, you'll meet all kinds of friendly people everywhere you go. But I don't know what happens to these people when they're on the road. They turn into the biggest fucking scumbags on earth when they're driving their cars. and so many people have been telling me the same thing, that it's just absolutely insane to be on the roads here, whether you're driving, riding a bike, whatever it is. And I do think that part of the problem is being in the affluent suburbs. I think I've said this in a few videos, but I've gone on long bicycle rides. Long, like 800 miles is probably my longest bike ride. I've always wanted to I've always wanted to ride across the United States. I mean, I'm almost 50 years old. Clock is ticking, but I want to do it. I mean, at some point, I got no fucks left to give, and I'm, who knows? Maybe I'll find a way to do it. I mean, at this point in my life, I don't got a career anymore. I don't got, shit going on. I really got nothing to lose by just, after I'm done with probation, just fucking find a way to get out to the coast out west and just ride my fucking bicycle to the coast in the east. And just do it. And say I did it. I don't want to die without saying that without being able to say I rode my bicycle across the United States. That's just a rite of passage when you're a long distance cyclist and you enjoy that shit. And, so many people I know have done it. I feel like I'm missing out on something there. But, aside from that, I've gone on these long bike rides and it tells you a lot. You see things in a different way. When you're on a bicycle and you're traveling from point A to B, you see, you've seen me pick up tools off the road. Like, I got myself a $50 pair of pliers and a screwdriver for my toolbox. When you're driving, you're not going to notice stuff on the side of the road. That's how, you see things a lot more intimately. I know where all the cracks in the road are between here and Magnolia. Between Spring and Magnolia in Texas. I know all the cracks in the road. I know the parts of the road that I can ride on the shoulder, and I know where I've got to cut and actually take a space in the lane because there's a massive pothole coming up, and I know all the little cracks in the sidewalks and the bike path. I know all the little details now. You don't learn things to the level when you're driving around a place that you do when you're on a bicycle. You really get to know a place. And so, especially when you go long distances. And let's just say you're going from city to city to city on a long distance bicycle trip. You might, there's been many trips where I'm going from one city to another. Pittsburgh to Philadelphia, 400 miles. Pittsburgh to Washington, D.C., 350 miles. Pittsburgh to Rochester, New York, and back, which goes from Pittsburgh to Erie, PA, to Buffalo, New York, to Rochester, New York. And then down through Salamanca and down through the Allegheny National Forest and working your way through the Allegheny River Valley down till you eventually get to Pittsburgh. Other long distance rides. And there's something that takes place that I've noticed every single time I do it, without fail. You can tell how far you are from a city by how rude the people are to you when you're on the bike. Whether you're on a bicycle path or a bicycle trail, or whether you're on roads going from point A to B. And the examples I have, so if you're in a city, in the city, you obviously know you're in the city. You're surrounded by big buildings, stoplights every 500 feet, congested roads, more of a grid pattern, loud noises, cars everywhere, things going on you're in a city. You're in a city. But people generally leave you alone. I guarantee you, if I were to ride into downtown Houston on my bicycle, after I cross a certain threshold, nobody's going to be honking their horn and acting like an asshole to me anymore. It's just, people are just going to generally leave me alone, and we're just going to, and at some point, I'm going to be faster than cars. At some point, I'm going to get down into the city enough where I'm actually able to move around faster and travel faster on the bicycle than the cars are able to go, for one reason or another. But there's a threshold. But generally speaking, I'm not being harassed. Being left alone. Yeah, every now and then someone's going to beep their horn at you and flick you off or do a thing, it happens. Happens everywhere you go. But the frequency is going to it's going to drop dramatically and you're going to notice it. The opposite, when you're out in the country, when you're out on country roads, when you're out in the country, people generally are nice to you. You're going down the road. You do get honked at, but the funny thing is, if someone honks their horn at you, you look over and you want to get mad because, I get mad. I'm like, what the fuck? And then before the word even comes out of my mouth, I look over and the driver's like, hey, hey. Or like people honk at you and like a whole carload of people will be yelling, yeah, go, go, go. And like people are super friendly out in the country. When they see you on a bicycle, they think you're, they're friendly to you. If they're honking their horn at you, they're literally doing it to say hello. It's almost the same as when I grew up out in the country. And one thing that you do in the country is when you drive by a friend's house, you honk the horn as you drive by. So I'd be sitting at the house. My grandmother lived on a main road. I'd be sitting at the house when I lived at her house as a kid. You'd hear people drive by, beep, 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 beep. And you wouldn't know who the fuck it is because you're not outside. But friends, people who know you are honking their horn when they drive by your house as a way to say, hey, what's going on? And they're just that's a friendly horn honking. And they do it all the time when I'm riding out in the country. When I'm out on country roads, I get honked at, and I'm like, I want to get mad, and I'm getting ready to throw the finger, and it's like halfway out, and I'm like, wait a minute, they're waving to me, and I'm like, okay, the finger turns into a wave, and I'm like, hey, we're cool. But when you're in the fucking suburbs, any city in America, doesn't matter if it's Pittsburgh, Washington, D.C., Buffalo, Erie, Rochester, New York, Philadelphia, doesn't matter where you are. As soon as you're in the fucking suburbs, more than half of the people you encounter are complete fucking scumbags, dirtbags, and they treat you like total shit, and they all act as if they're fucking entitled. And like I said, like, you are just a peasant serf and you're on the Lord's road, and they're on a fancy horse and you're dressed in rags, and you're supposed to get off the road, bow down on your knees and bow your head and close your eyes and reverence them as they walk, as they ride by, prancing by on with their head held high and their nose in the air on their fancy horse. That's basically how they expect to be treated when they're driving around their fucking douchebag McMansion filled box mart covered suburbs. They treat you like fucking shit. Every fucking, it doesn't matter what city in America you're in, that's how it's gonna be. It's crazy. It's so fucking crazy. Buffalo, New York. When I rode my bike up to Rochester, New York, as I got to the Lake Erie shore is pretty crowded. All the way from Erie, PA to Buffalo, there really is no like country roads, but there is wine country. But anything along the Great Lakes coasts are crowded. There's literally almost no property that, in fact, from Erie, PA all the way to Buffalo, New York, along the shore of Lake Erie, there's only like 2 spots in that whole distance where you can actually see the lake shore. And you can actually go, like, put your feet in the water. 2 little spots. Because it's just, any like decent property like that's been gobbled up by rich cocksuckers long ago, long before you were born. And they've blocked it off so you can't even see the fucking lake anymore. So, but when you're driving through these areas, when you're out of the city, people generally, they just leave you alone. They're not bothering you. Like, there's no, but when I got to Hamburg, New York, which is about, it's like the outskirts, you're in the suburbs of Buffalo now. When you get to Hamburg, you're in the suburbs of Buffalo. Total different fucking drag. Every other fucking car driving by is honking their fucking horn, screaming at you, throwing shit. You know, people driving by in their giant pickups, rolling a big black cloud of fucking coal smoke. You know, just all the shit that they fucking do. People in their yuppie SUVs honking at you, swerving into you, trying to run you off the road, everything you can imagine. Just complete fucking cocksuckers. And as you're riding into Buffalo from Hamburg, there are dedicated bicycle lanes on the road. Like, literally, like, you could be on a road that's 6 lanes wide. There's 2 lanes in one direction for cars and a whole lane for a bicycle. And it's marked with bicycle graphics all the way along the road. I was riding from Hamburg to Buffalo in the bicycle lane on this fucking road, and car after car after car was coming by, honking at me, screaming at me, swerving into the fucking bicycle lane because it's not protected. It's just a line on the road that says bicycles here, cars here. Cars are just swerving into the fucking bike lane, trying to run me off the road, trying to cut me off, throwing shit out the fucking windows, screaming and yelling, middle fingers, horn honking, everything you can imagine, all the way from Hamburg until just about when you get into the city of Buffalo. I swear to God, as soon as you see the sign, City of Buffalo, you're in the city, you've crossed the city limits, boom, everybody chills the fuck out. It's like all of a sudden I'm in the city of Buffalo, I'm riding around and I'm not getting honked at, nobody's bothering me, the cars they're not being douchebags, none of it, okay? Now I have to go north of Buffalo to a town called North Tonawanda, which is now, you're back in the suburbs. And I was actually headed towards the start of the Erie Canal. I'm sure you've all heard of the Erie Canal. It goes across New York State, built a long time ago. Well, the towpath, the way that the Erie Canal worked, it's a small canal, and they would haul cargo in barges. And the way that the barges would be moved up and down the canal, they basically had horses and animals pulling the barges with ropes and shit. 'Cause the barges didn't have motors back in the day. So when this canal was built, so there was a path, there's a footpath on the side of the canal, sometimes both sides of the canal or one side or the other or whatever, but it's a path, called the towpath. It's literally called a towpath because that's where the fucking animals would pull the barges from, the shore of the canal. And so that towpath along the Erie Canal is now a bicycle trail, more or less. It's kind of crummy. There's no good bicycle trails in New York that are as good as like the ones in Pennsylvania and other places, the rail to trails and stuff like that. But I grew up there, so I'm familiar with, I know how, I was riding my bicycle unbeknownst to my mother. I was riding my bicycle to fucking Buffalo, New York and back when I was in like, 7th grade. My mom would tell me my mom finally gave up trying to give me limits. She would say, you have to stay in the county. And so one day I went on a bike ride. I figured out all the roads that touch the edge of the county, and I rode all the way around the border of the county. And I came home. My mom's like, how far did you ride today? I'm like, about 80, 90 miles or something. It's close to 100 miles. And my mom was like, I told you not to leave the county. I'm like, I didn't leave the fucking county. And I get out this map, and I drew with my finger all the roads that I took, because we didn't have GPS back then. It was just all paper maps and stuff. I'm like, and then she kind of got mad because she was like, she didn't expect that I would like bend the rules all the way to the limit and go along the entire edge of the county all the way around the outside of this county that we lived in, which turned it into like 100. Because it's like, at that point, like, why the fuck did I bother setting a boundary? Because he could be anywhere in this whole county. I don't know where he is. We didn't have cell phones back then. Our parents, when Generation X were kids, our parents on the last day of school would be like, get the fuck out of the house and don't come back until school's about to start and we got to go school shopping to get your clothes. You and your friends just go out and play. Stay out of the house. Don't bother us. Don't bother me. That's how parents were back then. They didn't give a fuck about what we did as kids. Oh my God, there's no, my children they would have absolutely no concept of this, of what this would have been like to have total free reign. If we got in trouble, we got in trouble. Like, I got grounded all the time, but I look back at some of the things that we did as kids and I'm like, holy crap. But anyway, yeah, I was riding my bicycle to Buffalo and back, which was, I don't know, that's more than 100 miles there and back. It's like a 45-minute drive to Niagara Falls from where I grew up. It's like an hour's drive to Buffalo, if a little bit more, 60, I'm going to say 70 miles. That's like 150 miles. Like, that's an all day. That's like an all day affair and then some to ride to fucking Buffalo and back on a bicycle. But we did it. We used to do this shit. And so I know how to ride the Erie Canal bike trail. That's the point. But anyway, as I get north of Buffalo and I'm leaving the city and I'm heading into North Tonawanda, headed toward the Erie Canal bike trail, once again, all of a sudden, assholes, every second or third car, honking their horns, screaming, yelling obscenities, middle fingers, throwing shit out the window, swerving into the bike path, getting mad, throwing temper tantrums. This entitled suburban douchebag attitude comes right back. And if I were on the roads, because I've been all over in Western New York on a bicycle, I've been all over Western New York on a bicycle. There really isn't much that I haven't, from east of the Genesee River, I've pretty much been everywhere I've rode my bike all over that motherfucker. From the Lake Ontario shore down to the Pennsylvania border and all the way across and all the way up. I've covered it all on a bicycle throughout the course of my life at some point. And between Buffalo and where I grew up in between Rochester and Buffalo. So as you're heading out towards where I live, once again, you're going to be leaving the suburbs and headed into the country. And once you're in the country, everybody's like friendly again. And this takes place everywhere I go. Everywhere I go. On the bicycle trail that goes from Pittsburgh to Washington, D.C. It goes through some suburbs, and it goes through some really remote. It's a 350-mile long rails to trails bike trail. And so you'll be in the city of Pittsburgh. You'll be in the city of Washington, D.C. You'll be going through the suburbs of both cities. You'll be going through Cumberland, Maryland. Those are the three big stops. You'll be going through Harpers Ferry, West Virginia. That's another big stop. But you're going to go through these areas. And you're either going to... So when you're in the city, same things. When you're in the city, everybody's chill. Everybody's sharing the trail. You'll have joggers, rollerbladers, bikers. You'll have all kinds of people using the trail. Then you'll get out of the city and you'll be in the suburbs. Now, the trail's full of assholes. The trail, the bike trail. Same entitled fucking scumbags that are an asshole to you out on the road are now on their bicycles. And the bicycle trail is only so wide. And it's just like a road. Stay to the fucking right. If you're going south, stay to the right of the trail. Oncoming traffic will be to your left. It's just like the rules of the road. Well, when you're in the suburbs, there'll be groups of fucking suburban assholes riding 3 people across, 6 deep, and they'll just be riding in a big mob, taking the entire fucking trail. And they will see you coming because there aren't that many sharp bends. There's no real, you can see, it's a railroad, so there's no sharp bends. You can see for half a mile or more ahead of you. So you'll see a group of you'll be in the suburbs, and this is common. You'll see a bunch of fucking suburban douchebags riding their bikes towards you in a group of, anywhere from 3 to 6 people or more. They'll take up the entire width of the bike trail. And as you're approaching them, they're not moving over. They're not getting out of the fucking way. So I'm starting to I'm sitting here, I'm like, what the fuck, people? I'm coming. I'm not going to get off the fucking trail to accommodate you, lords and gentry, on your fancy horses and bow to you on the side of the fucking trail and bow my head until you pass. This is my fucking bike trail just like it's your fucking bike trail. It's our bike trail. Learn how to fucking share the goddamn trail. I'll have to start jamming on my bike bell. Cha-ching, 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 cha-ching. And then maybe they'll fucking move out of the way. Just enough so that I can get by. And then they're all giving me the stink eye like I'm the fucking asshole as I'm trying to get past this group of fucking douchebags. And I'll look at them and I'll be like, what the fuck? Get out of the fucking way, you fucking assholes. Share the fucking trail. There's other people on this fucking trail besides you, you fucking dickbags. Or they'll get in a group of they'll be in the same group, but they'll be going the same direction as you are. But they'll be going 5 to 10 miles an hour, and they'll just be, lackadaisical. And I'm trying to come through at a clip. I'm going 20 miles an hour, 25 miles an hour. I want to get past you motherfuckers. So I'll slow down, I'll try to be, I'm not going to run over someone because I'm in a fucking hurry. But I'm like, cha-ching, 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 cha-ching on the bell. And these fucking people won't move out of the way. It's like, move over. Make some fucking room. You don't have to stop. You can ride single file. You can get in a line and ride single file. You don't got to ride 4 people across, stretched out all the way across the width of the fucking trail. You can give me enough room to pass, and I'll pass you, and then we can all go on our merry way. But this always happens in the suburbs. And not just the suburbs. And then the other thing that they do, the entire fucking trail is, for the most part, it's wide, number one. And there's plenty of room on both sides of the trail that if you want to stop and just chill for a minute, have a water break, eat a snack, there's lots of places where you can pull over and there's going to be like a bench to sit on or something like. But even if you're just on the trail, somewhere in the middle of nowhere, and you just want to like stop and have a water break and have a snack, have a fucking power bar, whatever the fuck, there's plenty of room to get off the goddamn trail and let people go by. But these suburban cocksuckers, they'll just gather in a big fucking group and they'll stand in the middle of the fucking trail. Right in the middle of the trail. 6, 10, 15 fucking people. They'll just stand in a big crowd and they'll take up the whole fucking trail and they'll be standing. They'll lay their fucking bikes on the ground right in the middle of the fucking trail. As if there's nobody else out there trying to ride on this fucking trail today. And you'll come through with your bike. Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. Like, get the fuck out of the way. For fuck's sake, you entitled suburban dickheads. Get the fuck out of the way. I'm sick of you fucking assholes. And so they'll be doing that. Just a big crowd of these fucking dickheads that think they own this fucking bike trail, the whole 350 miles of it, and they can just camp out in the middle of it. It's like it would literally be like Antifa sitting out in the middle of the fucking road because they're mad about Donald Trump today, so they're going to block all the roads in Seattle. And they're just going to camp out and sit in the middle of the fucking road and make it so nobody can drive. It's no fucking different than that, except we're entitled suburban cocksuckers, and this is our suburb, and we do what we want out here, and we are entitled, and we pay the taxes, or whatever the fuck they think that entitles them to act the way they do. They just do not have any fucking concept of other people sharing the same space as them. And the other thing that you'll see the same thing happen. There are stops along the bicycle trail from Pittsburgh to Washington, D.C. that are basically tourist towns or destination points where these assholes from the suburbs will put their bikes on their bike rack, drive to this area, park in a parking lot somewhere, hop on their bicycles and go for a Griswold family bike ride for the afternoon or whatever. And there's different places where they do that. One of them is called Ohiopyle. Ohiopyle, Pennsylvania. It's a town. It's like an adventure town. The Youghiogheny River goes through there twice. It's a big whitewater destination. There's a state park. There's tons of hiking. The bicycle trail and the bicycle trail that goes to Washington, D.C. cuts right through the middle of the town. And there's a big waterfall there. Frank Lloyd Wright's Falling Water, the famous house, Falling Water. I mean, if you've never heard of it, just type that into Google. When you see pictures of it, you'll probably recognize it as something that you've seen on TV. Falling Water is right in that town, right up the road from where the bike trail cuts through town, like just about 4 miles away. Maybe not even that far, I can't remember, but it's like a destination town. But a lot of these douchebags from the suburbs come down to that town, go on their Griswold family bike ride on the bike path, have dinner or whatever at one of the local restaurants and whatever, and they have like an adventure day, Griswold family adventure day. But when they're out on the bike trail, they act like they're in the fucking suburbs. So it's the same experience when you're about, I don't know, when you're about 6, I'm going to say less than 10 miles away from Ohiopyle, you're good. It's fucked up because you go through all these towns, you come into a bunch of different towns, you go through the towns, you move on, you're out in the middle of nowhere, You have the whole bike trail to yourself, and if you do pass other people on the bike, it's like you're just saying hello in passing. You might pass somebody going the same direction as you. You might get passed by someone going the same direction as you. You got people coming in the opposite direction, but they're all moving. We all got purpose. You get about 10 miles away from Ohiopyle, and all of a sudden the trail is just full of all these suburban assholes. Just taking up the whole fucking trail, not having any courtesy, and you gotta like weave your way through all this shit as you're going into Ohiopyle. And then you leave Ohiopyle, and for the next 10 miles, you're gonna be dealing with all the same assholes and all the same bullshit until you're about 10 miles outside of Ohiopyle, and then you're back on a nice, peaceful, tranquil, beautiful countryside trail, because there's no convenient place for the assholes from the suburbs to park their minivans or their SUV and take the Griswold family on a fucking bike ride. Because there's no fancy restaurants and shit like that in any of these other towns that are along the trail. And so you get close to Cumberland, Maryland, and it's a little bit like that too. But let's say you're going towards Washington, D.C. I always go from Pittsburgh to D.C. I've never gone fully. I've taken stretches of it, but I've never fully ridden from D.C. to Pittsburgh in the opposite direction. Because I lived in Pittsburgh. It was easier to just ride down there, hop on a train, take the train back to Pittsburgh. But anyway, you get to Great Falls of the Potomac is the landmark. And when you get to about that area, you're getting into the suburbs of Washington, D.C. But you're on this bicycle trail. And between Cumberland, Maryland, all the way down, Harper's Ferry's got a little bit of traffic, because Harper's Ferry is another town on this bicycle trail. The bicycle trail goes right through Harper's Ferry. The Potomac River goes right through Harper's Ferry. The Shenandoah River and the Potomac River meet at Harper's Ferry. And so the Shenandoah River is a very popular river for kayaking and canoeing. And the Potomac River is pretty popular for that kind of stuff too. So you've got the river people, and then you've got the bicycle trail that goes from Pittsburgh to D.C., cuts right through Harper's Ferry. And you've got the hiking crowd, because the Appalachian Trail, the most famous hiking trail in America, cuts through Harper's Ferry. And not only does that cut through Harper's Ferry is basically the halfway point. So the town is always full of people on their bicycles, hikers with big ass backpacks. Like, it is a very popular, but it's not so much the suburban douchebags when you get there, except for, you've got Harper's Ferry, there's a lot of Civil War stuff there, tourist traps. So you do get the Griswold family and you get that kind of stuff, but you do get a little bit of the douchebaggery on the bike trail. But it's not as bad as like the suburbs. And but as you go south of Harper's Ferry, you're about 60 miles from Washington, D.C. When you get to about the Great Falls of the Potomac, I don't know what town. I'm trying to think of, you're coming from the north into D.C. on the Potomac River. That's right around the point where you're in the affluent suburbs. And all of a sudden, once again, everybody you encounter on the trail is a complete fucking prick. There'll be joggers on the trail. And they'll be such douchebags to you when you ride by on your bike. They'll be fucking giving you an attitude, flicking you off, telling you you're a fucking asshole, and just everybody out on that trail, all the bikers are a bunch of snobby dickheads, and all the same suburban shit that people do, clogging up the trail and just acting like they're entitled and just full of themselves. And it's like that the whole fucking way from the Great Falls of the Potomac until you get to basically Georgetown, once you get towards Georgetown, there's a few different ways you can split off because the bike trail splits and it goes two different directions. One takes you straight into Georgetown, one takes you down to the Watergate Hotel. And as you get to where that trail splits, the attitude kind of fades away. Because now you're actually in the city. I consider Georgetown to be part of the city of DC. Like, I don't know if that's considered I don't know. It's like a neighborhood inside the city at this point. And once you're in the city and you're flying around, once you're on the streets of DC and flying around and whatnot, yeah, you're going to have a few encounters here and there, like I said, but it's not going to be like every single person that goes by you isn't going to be fucking acting like a dickhead to you. But ride your bicycle through McLean, one of the richest neighborhoods in America, the suburbs, out past where the Pentagon is. Go through Arlington, go through some of these other rich asshole suburbs. Every 2 or 3 cars that go by you are going to be just honking at you, screaming at you, trying to run you off the road, you name it. And it's like this in every single city I've ever ridden my bicycle through. The city's pretty chill. You wouldn't think so. Your gut instinct, if you don't ride a bike, you would think that the cities are the worst. I guarantee you, riding through Manhattan, the busiest city in America, is safer, and you're going to have less encounters with douchebags riding straight down through Manhattan from Harlem all the way to the Battery Park. If you go the whole fucking length, you're not going to have as many encounters going through Manhattan as I'll have going from here to the fucking Woodlands and the other side of the Woodlands on a daily basis. I'm going to have more encounters with these suburban assholes here in Texas than I would in Manhattan, the busiest fucking city on earth. One of the busiest cities on earth. But I guarantee you, when you get outside in the suburbs of New York City, you're going to be dealing with assholes left and right. But the cities are actually pretty chill. Every city I ever ride in is you wouldn't think so. Your gut instinct, if you don't ride a bicycle regularly, you would think that riding your bicycle in the middle of the city has got to be the most stressful, crazy thing that you could possibly do, but it's not. Riding in the suburbs is the craziest shit that you could ever, that's the most dangerous place to ride a bike. That's where all the people get killed. That's where all the people get run off the road. That's where you see all the white bicycles on the side of the road because someone got killed there and they put what's called a ghost bike up as a memorial for that person. The suburbs are where everybody gets killed on the bicycles. That's where all the assholes are that try to run bicyclists over. They're not in the city. And out in the country, it's the same thing. People out in the country, they drive fast on country roads, but they have a little bit more respect for people, and they're friendlier. It's these people that live in the fucking suburbs that are just the most selfish, entitled scumbags. It's where all the homeowners associations are. It's all these fucking Karens that you got these people that live in a bunch of fucking McMansions all crowded up next to each other in a big cul-de-sac, and you got all these people trying to get in each other's business and fucking I'm gonna report you to the homeowners association, and President Karen's gonna come over and fine you because you took 3 hours to bring your garbage cans back into the garage after the fucking garbage man left today. Or we put yellow daffodils out in the spring out in front of our houses, and you had these blue marigolds or red marigolds, and you planted the wrong flowers. You're not allowed to hang a flag out in front of your house. A lot of these fucking HOAs, you can't fly an American flag on your fucking house without getting a fine from Karen and her fucking douchebag cuckolded, emasculated husband Ken. They're going to come knocking on your door saying they might give you a warning, or they'll hand you a piece of paper and say you've got to pay a fine for flying a fucking flag. These are the fucking people that you have to share the road with when you're out on a fucking bicycle. And it's fucking irritating because they're fucking scumbags. They are, and most of them are Democrats. Most of these people are fucking Democrats. And I don't know. I'm just going off the rails because I had a rough ride home for 45 minutes. But this is something I have experienced my entire life on a bicycle. That the closer when you're in the suburbs, you got to watch out. You really have to be on your fucking game, and you've got to be aggressive, and you've got to be willing to put up with people's shit. When you're in the city, you just got to pay attention and not be dumb. In the city, you don't go blasting through red lights in the city because cross traffic's going to take you out. But you got to be careful in the city, but you don't got to really the drivers aren't out to fucking kill you. In the suburbs, they really are. They really do want to, a lot of these people that I encounter through this fucking woodland suburbs, that when they go past you, they want to run you off the road and kill you, but they don't want to go to jail. And that's the only thing stopping them from doing it. So we have our beef. They throw things, they throw temper tantrums, scream and yell, honk their horn. I put up the middle finger. I wish I had something more obnoxious. They make bicycle horns that are air powered that you can pump up with your bicycle pump. So it's kind of like, it's not like the CO2 cartridges or the air horns that you would take to like a soccer game or whatever, compressed air that you can't refill. You can pump these things up with a bike pump, and they're loud. Like, if I could figure out how to put a train horn on a bicycle and power it, even if it was a heavy battery that I'd have to mount on a fucking bike rack, I would love to get into a horn honking contest with one of these suburban dickheads and just be like, if they start beep, 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 I could just be like, with a fucking train horn and wake up the whole goddamn neighborhood of the Woodlands with one fucking rip of that train horn. I would fucking love to figure out how to put a train horn on a bicycle and just ride it through that fucking neighborhood and just I'll go rolling through it like 4 a.m. Like, you know what a train horn sounds like. That shit will wake up a whole neighborhood. I would love to have a bicycle outfitted with one of those if I could figure out how to do it, just to be a dick. Fuck, man, if somebody wants to sponsor me and pay for the whole thing, and, maybe we can have some back and forth ideas on how to actually build it. I'm sure somebody's already done it. I'm sure it already exists. I'm sure somebody has one on YouTube right now. I could go search for it after I'm done. I guarantee you someone has this already. Somebody's already done this. There's really no idea that I can come up with anymore that somebody hasn't already done, especially when it comes to being an asshole. So, but I would love something to piss these people off even more when they're driving by being a dick to me. I wish there was something besides a middle finger that I could do to them to just escalate the situation, and because why not at this point? I gotta get some entertainment out of this or something. I know that in a contest of bicycle versus car wins. I was hit head on by some 90-year-old lady who was blind as a fucking bat. She literally swerved across the road. She was going about 45 miles an hour. I was going down a hill going about 45 miles an hour, and she hit me head on. I flew like 30 feet from the fucking car and just by the grace of God landed in the muddy, grassy ditch on the side of the road, So when I hit the ground, it was just like soft. It was mud. It was just soft mud and grass. And I just hit the grass and I slid another 10 feet. So I had a big streak of mud going all the way down my body, but I went home and took a shower. I didn't have a scrape on me. I wasn't wearing a helmet. By the grace of God, I lived through that. The bicycle didn't. Imagine crashing a bicycle into a wall at 100 miles an hour. What that bicycle would probably look like, that's what my bicycle looked like. Completely, it was just a crumpled up, mangled piece of metal that looked like it might have been a bicycle at one point, but it was probably put in one of those compactors that they crush cars with. That's what it looked like. It looked like someone shoved my bicycle into a car compactor and then spit it out and threw it off on the side of the road. That's what it was just a crumpled up hunk of metal and spokes and fucking cables, ping ping. And there were a few parts that were salvageable off of it. But for the most part, that thing was trashed. That thing was fucking done. And, so, I don't know, man. I don't know. You live through something like that and you just don't have any fear anymore. Like, fuck it. My best friend, when I was growing up, he would, he'd take us in his mom's car and, he'd be driving, there'd be 3 or 4 of us guys in the car with him. He'd be flying down this one crazy ass windy road next to the Erie Canal going 95 to 100 miles an hour. And a lot of people die doing that on that road. They end up going off the road, flying off the road, and landing upside down in the fucking canal. It's happened many times. So we're like screaming at him. We're like, dude, no, stop. And he'd just look over and be like, it's not our time. Don't worry about it. Whoa, like going like 100 miles an hour down this fucking crazy road. Yeah, we were like 16 years old, okay? But he'd just look over and be like, it's not our time. Like, we're screaming at him. We're like, dude, cut the shit. Stop. You're going to kill us. It's not our time. Don't worry about it. Whoa! So that's what it feels like when you get hit head on like that on a bicycle and you walk away without a scratch. Like, I'm not afraid of it anymore. I'm not afraid at all. But I also know that, when the douchebag in the Dodge Ram that's lifted 20 feet high decides he wants to run me over, I'm not gonna, there's gonna be no damage to his truck. It's gonna be like the time that I hit a deer going 60 miles an hour in my Nissan Frontier that had the ARB solid steel front bumper that covered the entire front of the truck. I hit a deer going 60 miles an hour and the deer just went boing, like off into outer space. It's probably up there with Elon Musk's Tesla floating in orbit, just floating around the earth. I hit that deer so fucking hard and I thought for sure the front of my truck was done. I'm like, oh my God, I pulled over the truck. I was expecting to see broken headlights and busted up shit. There was deer hair on the bumper. That's it. Wiped it off. Not a scratch. I even took it to the shop. I'm like, can you find any sign that this vehicle was in a heavy, we hit so hard that we were kind of shoved forward from the impact. Because, you hit a deer at 60 miles an hour and that thing's like, it's an impact. But that deer was just like, boing, gone. And that's what it would be like, when the asshole in the Dodge Ram decides he wants to hit me. It's going to be like hitting a fucking deer at 60 miles an hour. It's going to it might leave a mark on his bumper. And he can just wipe it off, but it's going to fuck me up pretty bad. But at the same time, hopefully he's going to go to prison for that shit. And if I live through it, I ain't going to have to worry about working at a bakery anymore. I might have to, I might only be able to eat applesauce through a straw, but I'm not going to have to go get a fucking job ever again. I'm going to have some money. So, whatever at this point. I mean, you when you hit rock bottom, there's nowhere else to fucking go. But, you can't, how can you go lower than zero? So, I'm not worried about it anymore. But I don't know. That whole fucking long-winded rant about assholes in the suburbs was all because I've come to the conclusion I can't judge whether I like living in Houston or not based on my experience living here. Because I'm surrounded by the biggest assholes in town, and my experience with Houston itself is limited. I've really not spent any time in the city. I've gone in to meet my probation officer a couple times. I've driven around a little bit. I've gone to pick something up or run an errand or go here or go there. I've eaten at a couple of cheap restaurants. I haven't really experienced anything here. I haven't gone out with my photography equipment and taken photos of anything yet. I haven't done anything since I've been here, and I haven't really experienced this place because I'm just trying to survive right now. And so I'm not going to pass judgment on a city that I really haven't had a chance to get to know. Because I know that when I lived in Pittsburgh, when I first moved there, I didn't like it. Most of us didn't. And most of us who didn't like it, when we were all going to art school together, a couple years went by and we all loved living there, and we all have fond memories. And even the people that moved away, they like to come back and visit. And I like Pittsburgh. There's nothing, I don't have too many bad things to say about my old city. I don't. I like it. I would live there again. I would be comfortable there. I would probably be able to make things happen and, build a life again if I went back there. But it's, right now it's very cold. Today it was like 77, 80 degrees. It was 64 degrees when I left for work. A little bit of sprinkling rain, but nothing crazy. I didn't really get wet today, but a little bit of sprinkling rain. Not a lot of sun today. 64 degrees on my way in at 6:30 in the morning. 77 to 80 degrees on my way home this afternoon. I looked in Jamestown, New York this morning. It was 16 degrees. 16! So I'm cool with the weather. It gets a little cold at times here. It's been 20 degrees here in Houston a few times in the last month or two. But it's also 77, 80 degrees. It was 83 the other day and beautiful. And yesterday was beautiful and it was sunny. And it was probably in the mid 70s yesterday. Sunny, bright and sunny day, beautiful day, a little bit windy. If you watched the NASCAR race in Austin over the weekend at the Circuit of the Americas, that was the weather that we were having here. It was pretty much the same temperature, same wind, same everything. Beautiful weather for the most part. I can deal with a little bit of winter if most of the winter is like this. You know what I mean? Like back in Pittsburgh, you go all winter and you might get a weekend or you might get a couple of days here and there where the temp climbs up to 70 and it's just, a random weekend where it gets warm for a couple of days, but then it drops right back to 20 degrees. Here it's like the opposite of that. It gets cold for about 3 or 4 days. It can get down to 20 degrees. It did snow. It snowed a few weeks, back in January, it snowed. The entire freaking city, it was like the apocalypse to them. But in New York State, they wouldn't have even closed school for that much snow. But here it was like, oh my God, the sky's falling. Everybody run to the grocery store, get your bread and milk. It's the apocalypse. Everybody's going to die. But like that's the thing. It's like it gets cold for about a week, and then we're back into the 80s, back into set. It's like it went from winter to summer. There really isn't a spring here. I don't think it just kind of goes from winter for a month or two. It kind of gets cold, like Halloween. Like it kind of gets to the level that it would be like Halloween in Pittsburgh is about like what winter is here in Houston when it's going through its cold streaks. And then all of a sudden it's summer again. The trees don't even lose their leaves down here. Like, not like up in western New York and Pittsburgh where the trees are literally just wooden skeletons and there's not a single leaf on any tree. Here it's like the trees all have leaves. Like, there's no. Like, the leaves fall off a little bit in the winter and the fall, and they're like, you'll see leaves on the ground and stuff, but the trees that they fell off still have most of their leaves. And they don't really, you don't really see the change in trees. You don't see, like, it's not winter. It's not legitimate winter. It's just, it gets a little bit cold here and there. And so, I don't know. I'm burned out. I'm tired. I rambled on for an hour. I'll put this video together. I'll upload it. I got 3 days to figure out life. The pattern that I'm living right now, I'm going to take tomorrow is the first of my 3-day stretch to do what I need to do. Tomorrow's probably going to be focused on my personal stuff I need to do. I got to do my monthly probation report. I got to clean up the tiny place. I got to balance my checkbooks. I got to reconcile my bank accounts and all that kind of stuff and track where my money went. Just make sure all that's tidy and clean. And I got to update some computer files that I maintain every week, and just the personal organization stuff and cleaning the apartments or the tiny house or whatever I'm calling it today to make it so that it's comfortable and so that I'm not going to go crazy from clutter and dirt and just, I want it to be, if I'm going to be living in this tiny little place, it needs to be clean and it needs to be organized, or I'll go completely nuts. So I got to do that tomorrow. Anything I can do for my clients and for my business won't really happen until the afternoon or the evening, probably. Then I'll have Wednesday and Thursday to focus on getting work out the door that I'm getting paid for. And then Friday I got to go work at the bakery again, but then Saturday they didn't schedule me. So I've got Saturday and Sunday, which means if the brake pads come for my road bike, I can do all the front end stuff on the road bike. I can change the brake pads. And the brake pads that are on the bike right now have enough. I'm not going to throw them away. I'm just going to throw them in my tool bag as like, I can throw them back on at some point if I ever need to or in a pinch. If something goes, they have a little bit of wear left on them, but they're definitely getting to I would say at the pace I'm riding my bike right now, the 48, 80 to 120 miles a week right now is the pace I'm at. I got a few months before they're going to be done. No more than 3 months probably before they're just completely worn past the wear markers to where they're getting like dangerously low. But I won't throw them away when the new ones come in. I'll just set them off to the side as like just in case. But if those show up this week before Saturday, I'll pull that bicycle up on the work stand. I'll replace the brake cables. I'll replace the brake pads. Do like a really good. I'll probably pull the cantilever posts off. I'll pull the brakes off the cantilever posts, lubricate everything, just make my brakes feel like they're brand spanking new again. I'll try to fix my creaky handlebars, which basically involves probably having to take handlebars apart and move. There's probably a little bit more than I want to do with that, but I'm probably going to have to loosen the brake levers and loosen the aero bars and kind of move things off to the side, loosen the stem clamp, pull the handlebars off to the side, lubricate with grease around the handlebar, and then slide it back into the stem and really tighten it down. Put the aero bars, kind of like mark how everything is adjusted and how it's all kind of set up. But it probably won't take more than 20 minutes to do it or less. But it's kind of a pain for different reasons because you get things dialed in exactly how you want it in terms of your position and your riding position, and so you don't want to fiddle with that too much, and you don't want to move things around because even like an eighth of an inch is noticeable when you're riding every single day. And it took me years to get that bike kind of tuned into exactly how I want it to be in terms of like the position of everything. Years of making tiny little adjustments until I finally felt like it was dialed in. But I mean, that's just so there's that. And there's probably a couple other little things I can do to the Red Rocket. Then I can put the Silver Bullet up on the work stand, give it a full tune-up, adjust the seat to the right height, because this is a brand new bike. I have never ridden it. So I got to adjust the seat to the right height, adjust the pedal tension, make sure that when I click in and out of the pedals, my feet are not gonna, the pedals aren't gonna come unclipped from my shoes unless I want them to. If they're too loose, it'll drive me insane. It might even cause a wreck. Make sure the tires got the right amount of air, and just, make sure everything is just dialed in and sharp and tight. Take it on a little test ride for 1 or 2 miles just to make sure everything works and is dialed in. And then I'm planning on to give myself a little bit of variety. The next time I have to ride my bike to work, if it's like Monday, and the weather's not, if it's not raining, but like if it's a nice sunny warm day, I'll ride that bike instead of the Red Rocket, just to give myself a little variety and see how much faster it is, and see if I can actually shave off some time by riding a more aggressive road bike that's more of a kind of it's got the same geometry as a racing bike. It's just not like a full-on racing bike, but I would enter a race in that bike depending on the kind of race. But it's not meant to be a racing bike. It's meant to be a fast, get around town kind of a recreational fast road bike. That's the best way I can explain it. But I'm going to do that. I got this weekend. Then I can go to church on Sunday and just chillax, do the grocery shopping, do the normal Sunday routine. And so I'm trying to kind of get into a routine. I do have a job lead to follow up on tomorrow as part of the personal thing. And I had another job lead, but I had to blow it off. And I'll get into the reason why in the next video. I'll probably do a video in the next day or two, and I'll talk about that stuff. But it was a job that I would be able to walk to, but they put a demand on me after I filled out the application that they wanted me to do something, and I was booked. I'm like, for the next 3 days, I'm not going to be able to do this. And it literally was like, if you don't do this in the next 3 days, you'll be disqualified from the job. And I'm like, well, guess I'm not getting that one, because I had other shit that had to be done, and like going to my job, number one. And I also had to get a website done. So, sorry. Sorry I can't work for your shitty company, because I wasn't at your beck and call when you weren't paying me to be at your beck and call. So, yeah, we'll talk about that some more. And I'll be in a better mood. I'm gonna shave. I can't take this anymore, and I'm gonna get a good night's sleep tonight. Sleep until my body tells me it's time to get up, and just take the next 3 days to recover, and hopefully, maybe in a couple of weeks I'll have a job that I can walk to, and I won't be doing this back-breaking. I won't be doing this back-breaking routine anymore because this is not sustainable. I can't go. I can ride my bike all day long for months on end and not be worn out from it. But combined with this job and the other stress that I'm going through, it's too much. It's a overall combined, it's too much. And so I'm just gonna, one day at a time, hopefully in the next couple of weeks I can find a way to pull back some of my time and energy so that I can put my time and energy towards better things. With that, I'm going to say peace out, and we'll talk later.